Hey guys, Tom here from synthhacker.com and welcome back to another tutorial for NI Massive. In this tutorial we're going to be looking at making this Kavinsky style like electro synthpop bass. Really cool sound. If you don't know, the kind of preset or the sound is inspired by the bass sound from Kavinsky's track Nightcall, which is absolutely awesome. I wasn't trying to recreate it exactly, that was just kind of what I was using for inspiration. But what I do know is that it's a common misconception that a lot of people think that Kavinsky uses like mainly analog gear, when in fact in interviews he's actually been known to say that he mainly uses like all digital, which is like really interesting to like realize. And yeah, it's really cool sound. There's a lot of directions you could take it. You could use it for something like in a similar style as Kavinsky, or I mean there's a lot of other applications for this type of sound as well, like in like future bass or in like glitch hop and stuff like that. Just really cool sound. Also guys, you might have heard like the lead in the background, like it's like a synth pop lead. Let me know if you'd be interested in me doing a tutorial on that sound as well. But without further ado, we're going to initialize this patch and just create a new preset here. And as always guys, just before we start making the sound, I mentioned that this video is sponsored by my website, which is synthhacker.com, or you can click the link in the description below. Definitely, if you have time, go ahead and check out my massive mega pack, which contains over 500 presets, all handcrafted by me. Loads of cool sounds like the one in this tutorial and all my other tutorials for Massive as well. And just like loads of great presets for you guys to use in your own productions and reverse engineer as well and learn from. And that also comes bundled with a video course for Massive as well. So definitely go check that out, and thanks in advance if you decide to purchase that. But without further ado, let's begin making this sound completely from scratch. So the first thing we're going to do is go straight into the routing tab here. And what we're going to do is, I've done this in a couple of other tutorials, but we're actually going to use oscillator 1 as a sub oscillator by clicking this bypass button here. And then this is just automatically routed to the EQ, so it bypasses the effects. The reason for this is it's just a really great habit to get into when creating bass sounds, to set up an oscillator so it's completely bypassing all the filters and effects and stuff, and you can just use that as your sub oscillator, and then you're not going to lose any low end when it's being passed through effects and so on. So yeah, just make sure that's set up. Also make sure that you increase this bypass level here, or you'll not actually hear anything coming through. So yeah, make sure that that's up there. And let's just pitch this down 12 semitones as well, which is just an octave. And then we're going to change this to the sine square wavetable. It doesn't really matter which one of these two you pick. As long as you put the wavetable position all the way to the left, which means this is just going to be a pure sine wave. The next thing I'm going to do is set up our second oscillator, which is going to be the kind of main body of the sound, and we're just going to leave this at a default pitch, like an octave above oscillator 1. And the wavetable we're going to use for this, I messed around with like a few for this sound, but I found that this multiplex sounded the best. Just kind of subjectively to me. I mean, you can kind of play around with different wavetables as well, but this was the one that I thought suited this sound the best. And we're going to move the wavetable position all the way to the left, keep the intensity and amplitude full. Also just make sure these two oscillators are just being routed straight through filter 1 as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to set up a quite slowly decaying envelope to modulate the wavetable position. This is like for quite like aggressive or slow bass sounds like this, just having like a bit of modulation on the wavetable position is just a great way to make the sound kind of evolve over time. So we're just going to set up envelope 3 here. We're going to bring the attack right down, and we're going to give it quite a bit of decay and bring the sustain down just a little bit, and give it a little bit of release as well. We're also going to use this envelope for something else in just a second as well. The next thing we're going to do is go into our modulation oscillator, and I'll kind of give you guys a sound demo as we do this next step. We're going to bring, one second, we're going to bring the modulation oscillator down 1 octave as well. And what we're going to do is we're going to use phase modulation on oscillator 2, which is like, it's basically the same thing as like frequency modulation if you ever use like FM8 or use the FM warp mode in Serum. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring the phase down a little bit, and then we're going to drag and drop the same envelope we used to modulate the wavetable position onto the phase parameter, and we're going to increase this. And again, this is just to add a bit of movement to the sound over time. I'll show you what this sounds like in its current state. Let me just solo it a second. So you can hear already, even without the use of a filter, we're already getting some really nice movement, which is really cool. So we're going to leave that as it is. We're also just going to route the noise oscillator through filter 1. We're just going to add some a little bit of white noise with the color all the way up, just to kind of fill out the high end of the sound a little bit, and it'll sound really cool when we're putting it through our high resonance filter. Speaking of which, we're going to jump into right now. So we're going to use a low pass 2-pole filter. You can kind of mess around with the low pass 4 and 2-pole, decide on what you feel better. What you'll just basically notice is that because we are going to be modulating the cutoff frequency, you'll notice that because a low pass 2-pole filter has less dB roll off per octave, you're going to notice that it's going to let a lot more sound through, and it kind of when I'm creating sounds that have a lot of movement of the cutoff frequency, I like using like a low pass 2 filter instead of low pass 4, just because it has like a more like natural flowing movement. So we're going to again just use envelope 3 on the cutoff position. We're going to bring the cutoff right down. This is going to sweep all the way down. Just make sure that you don't go too far, because it does actually go past and you'll not notice any modulation. Just make sure that it's like just at the top there. Bring the resonance down a little bit, but we are gonna use some resonance on this sound. I'll show you what this sounds like. Really cool. The other thing I'm going to do is we're going to make the sound monophonic. I should have probably done this at the start, but I always make bass sounds monophonic, and we're going to bring the glide right down because we don't want it to glide as well. Okay, let's see what else we got left to do. So I'm going to bring the attack down on the envelope 4, which always by default is the amplitude envelope for the sound, and we're just going to make it follow a similar pattern to envelope 3, but not quite as extreme. The reason for this is because we want the cutoff frequency to change like dramatically over time, but we don't want our overall amplitude of the sound to drop too low. We just want it to kind of follow a similar pattern, and we'll give it a little bit of release as well. You generally don't want too much release on bass sounds, otherwise your mix can get like a little bit muddy. The next thing we're going to do is just go into our effects section. We're going to use the dimension expander, and we're going to bring the size down a little bit. And again, just to create some movement over time, we're going to use our envelope 3 on the dry wet. So at the start of the sound, it'll sound really big, and then it'll kind of over time, it will kind of become more like monophonic, or more like in the center of the stereo image, which is a really cool effect. And then we're just going to add a small reverb. And the cool thing about this is because we've already routed the low end of the sound like straight through, we don't have to worry about the like losing any bass when we're passing it through these effects and filters and so on. So we're just going to add a really small, quite dry reverb to the sound, just to give it a little bit of space. Personally, I would probably use, instead of massive reverb, would probably use an external reverb, just because the quality is usually better than the reverb you find in Synths. But just for the purpose of this tutorial, we'll stick with Massive's reverb. So this is our sound in its current state. Really cool. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole sound. I mean, you could EQ the sound a little bit if you want to kind of give it a little bit more end. You could just increase this high shelf to crispen it up a bit. Alternatively, if you want to kind of make it sound a bit deeper with less high end, you could either bring the high shelf down, or you could bring the modulation amount down on the cutoff so it starts at a lower frequency. It's completely up to you, but yeah, that's pretty much the sound. Hopefully you got some use out of this tutorial. Definitely play around with some different wavetables, maybe even some different like filter types and settings and so forth. And yeah, hopefully you got a lot of use out of this tutorial. It's a really cool sound. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with new tutorials like this one. Definitely go ahead and check out synthhacker.com to check out my massive mega pack, which has over 500 presets created by me. There's some audio demos on there and stuff for you guys to check out as well. And thanks in advance if you decide to purchase that. It really helps support me and the channel. And yeah, stay up to date with like very often tutorials that I'll be bringing out. Usually like at least 5 a week, sometimes even daily. So yeah, definitely stay up to date with that. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.